Thursday, January 27th, 2022. I'd like to call the regular meeting of Harlan Municipal Utilities Board of Trustees to order. Start with an approval of the agenda.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Roll call.
Michelle, aye.
Carol, aye.
Reese, aye.
Sheldon, aye.
Seibert, aye.
I guess I was supposed to mention that there was a change in the order on the agenda. Is that correct, Jen?
Yeah, I just
Item number
moved this.
10 is now the CEO's report prior to item number 11 with the possible exempt session. So. All right, next item is the approval of the consent agenda, which includes the minutes of the January 11th meeting, which there's a typo that is, somebody want to mention that one?
In the minutes, it said that the electronic, or that the fiber to the home was completed in 5 years versus the 3 years, only it should have been completed in 3 years versus the 5 years.
Okay,
So we need to have that corrected.
all right.
So I'll make a motion, we approve the consent agenda with the correction of those minutes.
I'll second.
Okay, roll call.
Michelle, aye.
Carol, aye.
Reese, aye.
Sheldon, aye.
Seibert, aye.
Item number 4 is the agreement for MCR to assist with attachment H, which determines HMU's annual transmission revenue requirements in the Southwest Power Pool.
Yes, this is our annual attachment H that we've been doing every year since we've been in SPP. What it allows us to do is recover a fair amount of revenue through our transmission ownership program. It's usually in the neighborhood of $200,000 to $250,000 a year in revenue. This will be scheduled for May.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Roll call.
Michelle, aye.
Carol, aye.
Reese, aye.
Sheldon, aye.
Seibert, aye.
Okay. Item 5 is P&E engineering agreement and proposed design.
Yes, this is the formal agreement, which we probably should have executed before we got working on it, but we were kind of trying to push this through because of the extended purchasing timelines. But this is the P&E agreement for the well field work, for the distribution work related to that.
I'll make a motion that we approve the design agreement.
I'll second.
Roll call.
Michelle, aye.
Carol, aye.
Reese, aye.
Sheldon, aye.
Seibert, aye.
Item number 6 is results of the materials bid for electrical distribution in well fields.
Yes, this is the actual result of some of the work that they did, the preliminary work. As the board may recall, the information we were getting was the long lead times on transformers and other equipment. And so we made a determination we should move forward with the materials bidding. And that is what this part is for. Basically, we had originally estimated that the bulk of the materials would come in the neighborhood of, let's see, what was the exact number? $256,800. And as a result of the bid, it's going to end up being the transformers are 34% higher than what the estimate was, and the switchgear is 37 to 68% higher. And we're still seeing close to a 50-week lead time on the equipment. So the total proposed from the bids for equipment is $344,459.75.
Yeah, so quick question here. So are we competing at the wrong time? So I know we're trying to accelerate the procurement, but are we accelerating it at the worst possible time when supply chain issues are driving costs through the roof? And would it be, what's the risk of just waiting and seeing where supply chain issues fall out between now and when we need that item? In other words, we're kind of, it almost feels like we're rushing we're throwing our hat in the mix when it's probably the worst time to be throwing our hat in the mix. I know we got a lead time issue, but it's costing us a premium. So
We approved this, didn't we?
Is this,
7 board meetings ago or a couple months
is
ago?
this the 69? Is
Yeah,
this
we-
for the 69?
No, this is for the well field part.
This is for the well
Yeah,
field?
yeah.
The issue is becoming that we wanted to expedite the
Yeah.
new wells as quickly as possible so we can alleviate the potential shortage of water next year and meeting everybody's demands or minimizing that time. So it's,
From our standpoint and our take on the market, our raw materials and services have gone up across the board. And from what I'm told, I don't see this changing anytime in the near future. I think that the supply chain challenges are going to stay with us for a lot longer than, it's not like in 6 months things are going to ease. I really think if anything, the sooner we get her done is less risk as opposed to wait and see if we continue to see inflation at the rate we have. But I've got raw materials that are scheduled at a double-digit inflation for the next 6 months, every month. We're going to nearly double it in 6 months, and I just don't see that easing within a time frame that we can do anything on this one. The well field problem really has been pushed off by every administration for about 5 administrations now, and it's time that we actually take action on this. And
Yeah, because weren't they first talking about that there was a problem with the well fields back in the 80s?
yes.
Yeah.
yeah, so what this, I mean, you guys haven't seen the budget discussion yet, but what this leads to is the prioritization of your capital expenditure items, right? Because we are probably not in a position where we're going to go raise rates 36 or so, rates to account for inflation. So we need to start looking at our prioritization of where we're spending our capital investments. If that makes sense.
We are under more or less a mandate from the DNR. We have to take action or they will come in and force action. So.
Yeah, so maybe that's a re-ask to the DNR, to the state or the federal government in some way, shape, or form. These inflationary impacts on business may need to be something that we just ask the question, what relief, what federal or state relief is out there to help us offset some of these costs, if that makes sense.
We are pursuing that. McClure Engineering is looking at all the opportunities for infrastructure funding.
Okay.
In this regard, both with the USDA, with regard to the infrastructure bill, as well as there are some programs through the EPA that they're also looking at. So.
Okay, yeah, we're just asking, really low it to ourselves, if we think the economic situation is going to be as dire as it appears, and we're trying to minimize risk by continuing to forge ahead and paying the premium, we need to make sure we are aware of the impact.
And it's not just supply chain as far as the transportation side. Every time we get a new outbreak of another variant, it also is interrupting the manufacturing, having to slow down, close down for Omicron outbreaks, that type of thing. So it's a number of things. The board has to take that risk into consideration, but nowhere have I seen any evidence that, at least in the near term, probably 12 months, that we're going to see much relief.
I can't even order a refrigerator in white yet. So I vote to approve the bid.
So we're going to call that a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Roll call?
Michelle, aye.
Terrell, aye.
Reese, aye.
I with a follow-up, if that makes sense. Aye. Sheldon, aye.
Seibert, aye.
Yeah, we need to get after fiscal mitigation plans quickly, because if we think this economic situation is going to remain in place and we've got capital plans we're trying to get after, we need to be aggressive on getting after federal or state funding to help offset our costs. So, or else we're going to be right where we were before, where we're not doing things that we may need to be doing that fiscally causes us to offset them or delay them.
Item number 7, recommendation to fund the electrical distribution system upgrade in support of the raw water development project with electric utility funds.
Okay, what this is,
I do want to say that Al Powers is on the phone, but everybody that's on here says that they are having a hard time hearing. So I suppose if we're going to keep offering Zoom, we need to find a way that they can hear it. Otherwise, quit offering it. So he might not be able to answer questions if he can't hear you guys very well.
okay.
I can hear you, but that's about all I can hear.
Yeah, that's because I'm sitting right next to the laptop.
Could you ask him if he could express his opinion on the whole logistical supply issue with regard to timing?
Ken would like you to express your opinion on the timing of supplies.
I'm sorry, on the timing of the what?
Materials.
Of materials?
Yes, that is, I did catch a couple of things that were said, and I agree, it's a terribly bad time to be bidding materials. The timing of that is driven entirely by the need to provide electric service to the new wells. We have a meeting scheduled for tomorrow to talk about schedule, but assuming that you want to have the new wells in service by the end of this year, we've got to order material now because of the lead times. We just barely can get things, in time to expect to provide service by about November 1st. If you were to delay the well project, then I would definitely recommend delaying the material purchase also.
Thank you.
Let me also add, there might be some options that I haven't really explored, but thinking about it now, if all we have to do is get service to the new wells and could defer maybe until a year or 6 months to a year in meeting the DNR reliability requirements for the well field as a whole, we might be able to only purchase maybe three transformers and do some temporary work to get service to the new wells without doing the whole project at this point.
Why did you temporary?
Al, I'm going to go ahead for the sake of the group here and try to elaborate on that. The electrical project is basically 2 parts. First of all, to provide the new services to the new wells down in the well field. The second is to meet the requirement that the EPA has set to be able to provide backup power to the well field. And so this expanded project is to be able to loop back to the old power plant to be able to provide backup power from one of our existing generators. So there is 2 pieces of it. So we potentially, if the EPA agrees, could request an extension of time to complete the project versus doing it all in one phase.
Yeah, so I would offer that maybe there's a 3-pronged attack here. One is go after additional money because of the economic situation we're in, and then have a discussion or present options, I think, to the board as it relates to mitigation without additional funding, if that makes sense. And then the third option is just to forge ahead.
We're on number 7?
Number 7, yes. Okay. All right. This is with regard to the funding of this part of the electrical project. We have visited with the engineers and with USDA with regard to the overall water project to be funded through USDA. And our recommendation is to not include the electrical portion of the work in the USDA ask of the water project. In other words, to either do a separate funding through the electric utility for this part of the work, or to use current operating reserves to do this portion of the work, but not to include the electrical in that raw water project for water. And we'll also be having some additional discussions once we get MCR on board, whether or not we should tap operating reserves or to issue bond for that part of the work. So.
Well, typically, I mean, the electrical part of any major project, purchasing of a transformer and everything, we would handle. And then it's built into the bill back to the customer. Mm-hmm. But since we are the customer on both ends, would the well or the water department pay for that transformer back?
Yeah, if we follow normal processes, everything included in this project would be a water project, and the water utility would be responsible to pay the whole thing. We're just trying to look for a way, because the electric department has some funds, to kind of mitigate what the future impact of the USDA loan will be to the water customers. It's just an option to consider. I mean, it's entirely up to the board how they want to proceed, but
So if this is all a water project, can we use the electrical funds to support the water project?
in other words, could we do our own internal inter-utility loan? Is that what you're asking?
Well, right now you're talking about using electrical funds to pay for this electrical project, right?
Right, yes,
But it's a water project.
yes.
So can we use the electrical funds to pay for the water project? Because you're not really talking about an inter-utility.
No, I'm just talking, the ordinary process is that this electrical work would ordinarily be included in the ask for the USDA water project. It would be part of the overall water project, along with the piping, along with the wells and everything else. And so just in an effort to kind of try to reduce what we ultimately ask for the USDA loan is to have the electric do this portion on their own versus having it paid for through the water utility.
But we would use electrical funds to do it.
Yes.
And we would not then consider it an inter-utility loan.
No.
So can we do that?
Yes, we can.
So my comment was based on, if say the water department here was a separate company or whatever entirely.
Yep.
We would still be responsible for providing a transformer and everything to them.
Yes.
And we would pay for that, but we would get reimbursed through rate structure.
Yeah.
And because the water department here, do they pay rate structure on?
They do pay electric bills.
Yeah.
They pay for the electrical services and the energy that they use. It comes out of the water budget. So.
Well, that's, I'm saying typical day-to-day operation, we would be buying the transformer and placing it. True?
Yeah.
So that part of the project, I have no problems with electrical picking that up, but as far as distribution and everything, that's usually, on the other side of it, the transformer. We provide the transformer up and to the point, and then from there on, it's part of that project or whatever. And that's how, kind of an industry standard is. Mm-hmm. And that's why but to say, we're going to take it to every wellhead and everything else, that's, to me, crossing the line or whatever.
Yeah, I'm struggling with it as well. From the time that this came up, I was struggling with the idea. At some level, if you were to, in fact, budget a higher electric rate for the water department, which is what you would have to do if it was, if Todd and I decided to open a water plant, that's what you would do. I think that has to be treated that way, or else you just can't blanket say, well, we'll just have the electric department do it. At some level, that's really seems wrong.
Yeah, I would say, as far as, we can look at the transformer costs, say, yes, that's electrical, and then we build into their rate structure. But, as far as the distribution after that, that's on the project, in my opinion.
Have we gone and asked the USDA and been told that we wouldn't get, this electrical part wouldn't be funded as part of this project? Why are we trying to minimize the bill that goes to the USDA?
Because everything with the USDA is already escalating in price. The estimated project, just in the course of design, has increased almost 30%.
Which is...
And it's just looking at a way to reduce the overall future ask for the USDA.
Yeah, I would recommend we go ask first, and then we come up with mitigation strategies if the answer is no. We go in and ask for a lower amount to begin with, worked our mitigation in there, and they come back and don't fully fund that program or that project, and now we're going back to the well again, no pun intended, to figure out how we can further mitigate costs. So I think the answer should originally be, this is the full cost to include electrical. If they come back and carve out the electrical and have a similar discussion like this, then we then have a mitigation discussion. Having a mitigation discussion before asking identifying the full project cost is just setting ourselves up for success or for failure. So, but that's my opinion. I'm not sure if that's everybody else's opinion.
So what I'm hearing then is we want to do the initial ask to the USDA for the full amount inclusive of electrical work. Okay.
That seems correct to me.
Yeah.
Because that was one
I'm
of the...
not saying the other option's not a possibility or that there's something inherently wrong with it, but it just doesn't seem, to me, it doesn't seem right.
Okay, so item 7 then is the recommendation, rather than with electric utility funds, is inclusive in the USDA ask.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, that's how we'll pursue it.
All right, item number 8 is change order number 1, filter number 1 repairs, $7,314.50.
Yes, credit on the filter number 1, horizontal pressure filter number 1 remediation project, and then the pay application for the overall payment on the project. And just an FYI, when we opened up the filter, there was a little bit of media in there. So we are working with the vendor and with the engineers evaluating if that's a long-term impact or if it's just something that just showed up at the initial backflow. So we'll get you a future report as we work like that.
We need to approve the credit of $7,314.
We need to approve change order number 1 and accept the payment application number
Right.
1.
I'll move to approve the credit and the pay app.
I'll second.
Roll call?
Michelle, aye.
Carol, aye.
Teresa, aye.
Sheldon, aye?
Favorite aye.
Okay, information only items. Ken?
Okay. We received a water fluoridation quality award from the Iowa Department of Public Health. So that's always good to hear with our water departments. Do you want me to go ahead and do the CO report then?
But I guess we should mention the McClure bills in the amount of $5,181.
Yep. Yep. The McClure bill and then the water fluoridation quality awards.
So I believe we are on to the CEO's report.
Okay. We had our all-hands meeting yesterday. Kudos to the water crews from the Honorable Mayor and others in the neighborhood that were affected by a water leak up there. Seems like they always happen on the coldest day or in the middle of the night, but our crews go out and work them. So Kudos to Deb, Lexi, and Trevor from a customer that was pleased with the work that the water department had done. We also wanted to let it know that we do have some job postings out there. We've reposted for another electric apprentice lineman as well as our journeyman lineman. We also have job postings for a customer service tech for service repair on the telecom utility, and then a customer service tech installer on the telecom utility. So those are open positions that we'll be advertising for internally, and then they go externally. We've also been participating with career...
And we still have a meter reader job open.
And we still have a meter reader, okay, additional one. And then we have also been working with the Harlan Community Schools on a career cafe, sending employees up to visit with the various classes and trying to explain what we do and what's involved as far as job skills, that type of thing. So, and also, we put information out to employees on the COVID testing reimbursement through insurance, so that went out. And if you didn't notice, we put up some new postings on the door about please, if you have fever, cough, or shortness of breath, please don't come in. So we are open to the public, but we're asking for customers to be considerate of our employees when they come in. Did our annual fire inspections this week. That's all taken care of. Volt power for December 2021 was approximately $41.67 a megawatt hour. Our average for the last 12 months was $35 and a penny a megawatt hour, so we're still very competitive on wholesale costs. It just always ends up depending on how long the WISA runs. So, let's see what else. We also were notified by NOAA and WAPA that the WAPA Upper River, Missouri River Basin is preparing to implement drought monitoring conditions this spring. Unless we have a significant increase in snowpack or spring runoff, we may be looking at some reduced power production this summer. So just an FYI, we'll continue to monitor that situation. Also, just an FYI for our customers, additional monies have been made available to the Iowa through the American Rescue Plan. $128 million for home energy assistance, so we're getting a little bit more additional funds for customers who are struggling with high heat bills, so that money is forthcoming. And then we're also, just an update, working with the city. We had a preliminary hearing today with regard to attachments to our old overhead poles that are still out there. And both MediaCom and Windstream have responded to the city. I believe our next hearing's been put off till May now. But Windstream did present a plan for removing their facilities, and we're waiting to hear from MediaCom on completing their work. And then that would get all of their facilities off of our old poles so we can do the final cleanup on the pole removals. So
How long have we been working on that?
approximately 2 years. Yep.
They're still in the alley.
Still in the alley. Yep. And then with regard to budget, as was mentioned previously, we did go through, we're in the process of prioritizing CapEx and also including some of the future-looking projects that would closely tie in with the city's comprehensive plan. So we're tweaking the CapEx a little bit from what you've traditionally seen. There'll be what's called non-discretionary, the items we have to purchase through capital on a regular basis to maintain operations, and then anything that's not identified as non will be prioritized for budget considerations going forward. So we hope to get some final numbers together. We're making some changes within the telecom utility as far as how the three services are identified and budgeted for. We'll run that by the telecom committee for review first, then back to the budget committee, and then hopefully we'll have it ready for the board the 1st of February and still meet the timeline with the city. So that's the current schedule on budget. And that is all that I have, unless there's any questions.
So I have a couple questions. So one is job postings. Are they posted on the Harlan or the city site website?
We're out on Facebook right now.
We are not in control of the city's website, so we can't post stuff on there. They're on our website.
Okay, do we
When they
share that
out to
with the city?
public.
I don't believe they are currently, but I think we should.
Yeah, I mean, it's a job opportunity, right? So it's,
Yeah, it's in the paper, it's been on Facebook.
yeah, it's more about communication than it is about, so I would ask maybe that. The second thing is sort of an angel fund update, or whatever we call that. In other words, sort of as we go through and, people struggle with utility bills and energy, if maybe there's an update on how much is available in the angel fund, how much is, we don't have to get into specifics, but folks have an idea that it exists, and if people hear it or start hearing it in this board, you might draw an interest or attention that maybe previously doesn't exist. So
Good. We can give an update.
that's it.
Yeah, we do that report every year. It's due August or September.
Yeah, I would almost say probably not an annual report, but a running report. In other words, it doesn't do somebody that's struggling necessarily, or somebody that wants to be altruistic and give, to know that it's an annual report. Maybe there's a surge of compassion or a surge of need that can be met in the middle of the winter. So,
Okay. We can do that. That's all I have.
kudos to you and your people for the water main. So,
Yeah, it's tough, particularly the ones, I think we had one, they were out most of the night on a cold night. It seems like that's always the worst time, but that's usually when it happens, so.
Okay, other questions, comments? Okay, on to item 11 is possible exempt session pursuant to Iowa Code Section 21.9. Basically, conditions of employees of the governmental body who are not covered by a collective bargaining agreement under Chapter 20 is exempt from this chapter. So, need a motion to go into closed session.
We go into closed session.
I'll second.
Roll call?
Michelle, aye.
Carol, aye.
Reese, aye.
Shelton, aye.
Favor